region of July and June. So this is where we get Janus. We understand Janus, the two-faced, in the connection with Christmas in the Tropic of Capricorn, so we can understand the significance of this balance and separation of light and darkness, right? This balance of light and darkness. Now, as we see that there'll be longer days going forward from the spring and into the summer, we'll have 12-hour days of sunlight, right? Where before we were getting about 10 to 11 hours of sunlight. So this transitioning in the springing forth of light, and for us in the northern hemisphere, in this northern tropic, this is our time to welcome the spring and the summer, right? And then in the opposite southern hemisphere, the fall and the winter, right? So this is how the transitioning of seasons is alternated between the two hemispheres, between the two tropics, and the measuring. And this is why the measuring and the these ancient Yhwh who traveled the world. All right, so when we look at the Chichen Itza and we see the whirlwind and this gust of wind that takes place at this monument, you have to understand the location here, 90 degrees west, and the significance of the fall. And these ancient Israelites that traveled, that circumnavigated not just the Middle East, but they came from the Americas, from the fall, from the southern portion, the Yhwh, the right hand. So we understand 90 degrees from Ghana, from the Tropic of Cancer, brings you into Mexico, right? For this full right angle. And this was necessary, the right angle, the 90 degrees was necessary to begin observation and calculation of perfection of 90 degrees. So righteousness, a right angle, 90-degree angle, and the 4 arc angles, and knowing how to project yourself with that navigated according to the celestial star systems. This is why this new year, we look at April Fool's Day, how April Fool's Day came into existence, because many believe that the new year was in January during the time of the two-faced fall. So these transitions, when we look at these doors, from March, the sun goes in through this door of the equinox to then during the summer solstice, during the Tropic of Capricorn, which is during this time. So when we look at where Africa is in Ghana, and we understand the Dogon and the star, we have to understand the travels of these 4 quads from the beginning of the September of the south, from the west during the Tropic of Capricorn, which we understand this is the time where the sun dies. So when we look at the springtime, this is the springing forth of this new beginning of the sun. This is why the new year, the sprouting air, the noon, is considered this time of Aries. You understand the Aries aura, or this is the light that was formed from the beginning. Now, aura is not necessarily a light that you can see with the physical eyes, right? So this is like continents, your aura, you know what I'm saying, the light you give off, right? So when we look at the travelers, these ancient travelers, these ancient saviors, the Yhwh, the fish, when you look at Christ and Jesus, so when we look at this time of the Aries, as we understand, this is looked at as the month of Abib in the scriptures as being significant with the time of Nisan and the new year. Now, we know that the new year is actually a semi-annual process, right? Because there's a new year that's in the fall as well as the spring. Now, when we look at this time of the spring and this new year and this significance and this connection with the Brahms and Indus Valley, when we understand how the ancients understood the underworld, and going into the underworld, you have to understand Indo and Indio, Indios, from the West Indies to the East Indies. As you see here, 60 degrees west is where the door to the West Indies, and then you see that is 30 degrees from the September equinox. And then when you look at the East Indies, it's 30 degrees. So when we look at Krishnas and the Black Greek, right, the real Krishna, the Christ, the christening. So we understand the crossing and the christening, right? This is referring to the myth of the crossing of the birdhouse, the waters, the great seas, right? So this crossing of the great seas here, the Ring of Fire over the Pacific, leaving the California borders here, crossing over. This is why Kali, the Lord of Kalam, blackness, death. This is why this region here is always significant with the ending, right? That's why you have the West Indies as those that cross into the Abib, into the new year of Aries, came into the across the East Indies. Here, as we see the Pisces here, the East Indies crossing into the new year of Aries, the Taurus on the run, the Masons. Right? This is the annual processions, the annual
Easter. This is because at the spring equinox the sun officially overpowers the evil darkness, as daytime thereafter becomes longer in duration than the night, and the revitalizing conditions of spring emerge.
Right here, and it goes down to die in December, then it climbs back up again and becomes victorious.
June the 21st, the solstice, the longest day of the year, and then when the sun hits Capricorn, it's December the 21st. That's the day the sun dies. The sun is the hero. The sun gives us an electric pulse in summer, and then it gives us a magnetic pulse in winter. The sun gives us photosynthesis, then it lets us be buried in
on clockwork with the sun. These calculations of these ancients. So when we look at where Africa is in Ghana, and we understand the Dogon and the star, we have to understand the travels of these four quads from the beginning of the September of the south, from the west during the Tropic of Capricorn, which we understand this is the time where the sun dies. So when we look at the springtime, this is the springing forth of this new beginning of the sun. This is why the new year, the sprouting air, the noon, is considered this time of Aries. You understand the Aries aura, or this is the light that was formed from the beginning. Now, aura is not necessarily a light that you can see with the physical eyes, right? So this is like continents, your aura, you know what I'm saying, the light you give off, right? So when we look at the travelers, these ancient travelers, these ancient saviors, the negus, the fish, when you look at Christ and Jesus, Joshua, and these ancient navigators,